Despite coming up short in the first few years, Samsung is back on top among foldable phones with the incredible powerful Galaxy Z Flip 7. From a larger flex window display to the effectiveness of its multimodal AI with Gemini Live and the power of a computer in your pocket with Samsung DeX, the Galaxy Z Flip 7 is finally the flip phone I have been waiting for. Given how last year's model received a $100 price increase, I am relieved that Samsung has kept the Galaxy Z Flip 7 at the same price of $1,099 US. This undercuts the more expensive Motorola Razr Ultra 2025 while delivering more utility. The starting price comes with 256GB of storage, while the 512GB model will set you back at $1,219 US with both versions of the Flip accompanied by 12GB of RAM. At the moment, you can choose from 4 colors: Blue Shadow, Jet Black, Coral Red and Mint. That's fewer colors than Samsung offered with the Z Flip 6, but I hope that changes over time. From a cursory look, it doesn't look like Samsung has done much to change the design of its flip phone with the Galaxy Z Flip 7. It still has flat edges that dig into my hand and it's really tough to open one-handed, but that changes that are there are certainly welcome. For starters, the Galaxy Z Flip 7 is actually thinner than the previous model at 0.26 inches when opened, and while it's a smidge heavier at 6.63 ounces. That's a warranted given how the Galaxy Z Flip 7 has much larger main display now. Foldable phones have a reputation for being fragile, but not the Galaxy Z Flip 7. Just holding it in my hand, it feels incredibly solid and it manages to retain the same IP48 rating as before with its new armor frame aluminum design. Smudges don't appear as bad because the Flip almost has a matte-like finish, but it is not prone to the usual scratches. Samsung also says the new Armor Flex hinge is smoother and more durable, but there's still a crease on the Galaxy Z Flip 7's main display. Luckily, it's not as noticeable when watching videos and stuff, but I do like how it isn't as deep as the crease on the Galaxy Z Flip 5 from 2 years ago. I wouldn't say the design is as attractive as the Motorola Razr Ultra, but I am most happy about the flex window display changes. For years now, Motorola has beaten Samsung with its larger outer screens, making it even easier to run full apps and using the better rear cameras for selfies, but that changes with the Galaxy Z Flip 7. That's because Samsung's phone now packs a 4.1-inch Super AMOLED exterior display that goes edge to edge. Gone is the notch of last year's outer screen, and it's a shocking example of how much the new design makes a big difference. It's honestly an impressive change when I look at how skinny the bezels are over the Galaxy Z Flip 6 and Razr Ultra. Having more room makes everything better, like catching up on my emails, playing games, and especially recording video of myself. I only have 2 complaints. The flex window on the Z Flip 7 still doesn't support full apps natively, and it doesn't have an auto-rotate option. I still need to go through the extra steps of installing the Good Lock app before I am able to run full apps on the Z Flip 7's outer screen. I recommend doing this because I find it extremely helpful. It makes using apps one-handed a lot easier. Even though the Galaxy Z Flip 7 flex window doesn't auto-rotate, the Good Lock app offers options to shrink down apps so that they don't interfere with the cameras. Meanwhile, the inner display on the Galaxy Z Flip 7 grows to 6.9 inches up from the 6.7-inch size of the Z Flip 6. The size increase is a welcome addition that makes running 2 apps simultaneously a slightly better experience. Just as before, this dynamic AMOLED 2X display is sharp looking, produces rich color, and maintains clarity at wide viewing angles. In our display benchmarking test, the Galaxy Z Flip 7 reaches a peak brightness of 1989 nits, that's up from 1942 nits recorded by the Z Flip 6. Yes, it's brighter on paper, but I hardly notice the difference watching videos on YouTube on bright sunny days. For a foldable phone, it's an impressive score given how few phones ever get close to topping 2000 nits. Sadly, Samsung doesn't give the Galaxy Z Flip 7 any big upgrades like what it does with Galaxy Z Fold 7. I am disappointed for sure because the Galaxy Z Flip 7 specs hint at the same exact cameras as before, a 50 megapixel main sensor, 12 megapixel ultra wide and a 10 megapixel selfie. Even their apertures are identical to the Z Flip 6, which leads me to suspect that any improvements will be driven largely by the phone's updated Pro Visual engine. However, I will say the Z Flip 7 is the best camera phone for creators due in part of the utility of its flex modes. When you shoot photos and videos as much as I do professionally, you will appreciate how these modes make it much easier to get the shots you want. Samsung offers the most robust camera software out there. The Z Flip 7 has everything I want like manual video controls, portrait mode, LOG recording, and much more. These are tools much like on my mirrorless camera, making the Z Flip 7 the most versatile camera phone around. In fact, I argue it's even better than the Z Fold 7 because of its flip style design, but it also helps if the flip can take excellent photos and videos. Here are some camera samples of the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 7. If there is one controversy surrounding the Galaxy Z Flip 7, it has to be Samsung's decision to drop Qualcomm as a system-on-chip supplier in favor of its own in-house chipset. The Galaxy Z Flip 7 is powered by a deca-core Exynos 2500 chipset, which is manufactured using a 3nm process. I did had reservations about the Exynos 2500 affecting the Galaxy Z Flip 7's performance, but using the Galaxy Z Flip 7 daily during my testing has elevated them. Although the performance benchmark scores don't beat phones running the Snapdragon 8 Elite, they are not too far off. Take its single and multi-core Geekbench 6 scores at 2286 and 8079 respectively. For the Galaxy Z Flip 7, they aren't too far behind the Razer Ultra 2025. At the very least, the Z Flip 7 manages to beat out the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 6. When it comes to graphics processing performance, there is not as much of a boost when I look at the 114.64 FPS average posted by Galaxy Z Flip 7 for 3D Mark's Wildlife Original Unlimited test. Don't get me wrong, that's still pretty smooth, but it's nowhere close to the 145 frame rate per second that the Razer Ultra achieves. I am not one to lean on synthetic scores because I value a phone's GPU performance based on my actual experience. After putting in some playing time with Age of Origins and Diablo Immortal on the Galaxy Z Flip 7, I barely notice any major differences compared to gameplay on the Razer Ultra. Spells that I cast in Diablo Immortal don't drop the frame rate of the game, while larger battle sequences in Age of Origins don't shatter either. However, the Exynos 2500 is laughably slow at rendering video. With Adobe Premiere Rush, it takes more than a minute for it to render, where the same task for last year's Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 powered Z Flip 6 took 43 seconds. That's a big difference that's tough to explain, but it could come down to how the Exynos 2400 is optimized specifically for video rendering. Due to its larger screen, the Galaxy Z Flip 7 benefits from a larger 4300 mAh battery, an upgrade from the Z Flip 6's 4000 mAh capacity. I would argue this is the main reason why the new phone is able to last longer in our battery drain test, where we have phone surf the wave until they run out power. It reaches an average time of 12 hours and 24 minutes before tapping out, whereas the Z Flip 6 lasted 11 hours and 1 minute running the same test. That's an improvement for sure, but it trails the even longer 15 hours and 42 minutes that the Razer Ultra 2025 achieves. Then again, Motorola's phone is packing an even larger 4700 mAh battery and benefits from better power optimization thanks to the Snapdragon 8 Elite. I have no complaints with the Galaxy Z Flip 7's battery performance based on my day-to-day experience so far, which gets me through my work day with no issues at all. At around bedtime though, I have usually found it running into power saving mode, so nightly charging is necessary with this one. While the battery life performance could have been better, I was hoping for Samsung to offset it by giving the Galaxy Z Flip 7 faster charging speeds. That's not the case here, as the new phone is still sporting the same speed as before. That's 25 watt wired and 15 watt wireless. After 15 and 30 minutes of charging, the Galaxy Z Flip's battery is able to get to 29% and 55% respectively. When I think about AI, I often remember Samantha, the AI assistant in the 2013 film Her, voiced by Scarlett Johansson. That's the epitome of how I could carry AI with me everywhere, and the Galaxy Z Flip 7 is the closest thing we have to that. This is because of the multimodal capabilities of Gemini Live, which lets Gemini tap into the camera to see the world around me. What makes the Galaxy Z Flip 7 a better AI companion than say the Galaxy Z Fold 7 is how its compact size lets me carry the phone in my short pocket. I have actually tried keeping the one half of the Galaxy Z Flip 7 with the cover screen on the outside of my shirt pocket, mimicking how Joaquin Phoenix's character carried around Samantha on his adventures. Now that's something you couldn't do with larger phones. Since Gemini Live is multimodal, I am able to ask about everything I am looking at. I used the assistant to check out the circuit breaker in my home to see if there is anything wrong with it because the second inexplicably lost power. To my surprise, Gemini was able to determine that one of the breakers was tripped, which I couldn't tell because it looked like it was in the on position, and it guided me on how to reset the breaker. That saved me from having to call an electrician to come out. Beyond Gemini Live, there are a few more new additions courtesy of Galaxy AI. Borrowing from the Galaxy S25 series from earlier in the year, the Z Flip 7 offers the Now Brief and Now Bar. They are useful additions, but I find the Now Bar much more helpful due to how it essentially has rich live notifications. There is also cross-app actions, which leans on Gemini to perform complex actions all with voice commands. It works well across the native apps on the Flip to do things like researching the next time I have an appointment and reminding me, but I really want to see more support for third-party apps. Obviously, it's a work in progress, but it is still light years better than anything Apple Intelligence offers. Other new Galaxy AI features with the Z Flip 7 include a new audio eraser tool that also debuted with the Galaxy S25. For the average person, audio eraser lets them remove distracting or unwanted background noise from videos, but in my experience, it can sometimes cause my voice to sound a little too artificial when I get too generous with the noise cancellation. Beyond that, the Galaxy Z Flip 7 has all the other Galaxy AI features that have been released to date. They include photo editing stuff like generative edit and sketch to image, along with productivity-centric ones such as writing assist, call assist, note assist, and more. Even though there is not as many new Galaxy AI tools introduced here, the latest Flip still has one of the richest packages around. The Galaxy Z Flip 7 is the best foldable phone in my opinion. After using the Z Fold 6 for most of the last year, it's refreshing to switch it to a flip style phone. I'm especially glad it's much lighter, more compact device for me to carry around. Thanks to big upgrades like its larger flex window display, multi-modal AI capabilities, and Samsung DeX. The Galaxy Z Flip 7 has all the ingredients in what I want in a phone, and it helps that it doesn't cost a fortune either. Over on the creative side of things, no other phone matches the utility of the Flip for what I want in a camera phone. Although the camera performance is barely improved from the Galaxy Z Flip 6, its rich camera app and handy flex window display make it more powerful to use. Motorola has dominated the flip phone scene for the last couple of years now, and while the Razr Ultra 2025 is a super upgrade, the Galaxy Z Flip 7 convinces me that Samsung is back on top. I would even recommend getting it over other $100 priced flagships like the Pixel 9 Pro or iPhone 16 Pro. Those phones in no way can match the utility of the Galaxy Z Flip 7.